Hello and welcome back to another video from me, FPL Crusader. I hope you've had a good international break and cup break. I have. It all culminated last weekend when I saw Fulham get absolutely manhandled by Crystal Palace. So that wasn't too flash, but it was a good introduction to the end of the season. It's typical of how my FPL season's going, but we'll move on. Unfortunately, Fulham won't be going to Wembley. Another reason why I can't come over to England to watch Fulham, but there it is. This week we are looking at Game Week 30. So if you are looking for some transfer options and some players, even if you're doing a wild card, I've got a wild card draft in today's video. So without further ado, let's crack on. The one thing I will say before starting is that there is 2 game weeks or 2 deadlines in the next week. So we've got one in 24, 48 hours, depending on when you're watching this. There's also another deadline for 31, which is on the weekend. After that, I believe, off the top of my head, I think it's week on week. So it's back to normality, and I don't think there's any stops towards the end of the season because there is 8 weeks left. And obviously, game week 31 being at the start of first week in April, we need to finish in May. So that gives us the 8 weeks. That being said, the next 2 weeks, if you are wildcarding or if you're bringing in players, you need to make sure that these players are going to get the full 90 minutes. As a lot of great FPL managers and FPL content creators say, it is important to pick players who get consistent minutes. We're looking at these players here that are currently injured or suspended. Cole Palmer missed game week 29. He's got a muscle injury. He's doubtful. Is he going to get 2 game weeks in 3? Don't know. He should play against Spurs. It is a derby for them. Chris Wood did not play in the cup on the weekend. 47% owned. He's got a hip injury. He is doubtful. He didn't, as I said, he didn't play in the cup. O&E did. I wouldn't mind betting. He'll only get 1 run. So he might get the Manchester United game and not the next one. Trent, 25% owned. He's got an ankle injury. He's going to Madrid. It's already confirmed. They need to play him without him. They're at the top of the table anyway. They can afford to have a couple of mishaps while still getting the wins they needed. I'm not sure if he'll play in the derby game. It'd be perfect 8-week run to blood in. Whether it's who's his backup? So his backup is Bradley, so that should be fine. I think he will. I think they'll be fine there. So I don't expect Trent to play much towards the end of the season at all, really. Anthony Robinson's the next one we can see there. We expect him to play. Our fixture's the worst. We're playing Arsenal next. I expect him to play. So he's got a knock, but you'd expect him to start. We need him, essentially. And the 18% owned forward, which is Ollie Watkins. Potentially, they've got 2 doubles. He does have a knee injury. If he can't afford to get to Watkins, then Rodgers might be a good punt, considering he does look very good. That being said, the likes of Asensio, even Rashford, if you've got balls on you, he could get some goals over the next 9 game weeks. And don't forget, they've got 2 doubles in there as well. So they could get a lot of goals or the potential for a lot of returns as well. So that's the highly owned injuries and suspensions. Cunha got an extra suspension, so he won't be back for a few game weeks. So he's not really one I would go with. It'll be interesting to see if he can recapture the form he had mid-season when his fixtures are looking really good. Right now they don't. Right now they look just as good, but as he just needs to control his temper, unfortunately. Let's have a look at the shots on target. I've done this. I've sorted this by goals scored. Mo Salah's well out in front, 27 goals, 55 on target. It's almost a 50% hit rate. Haaland with 21 goals. A lot of people haven't gone with him. His fluctuations and his form lapse is over. He's back on top. Well, I shouldn't say on top, but he's back in form. So he's doing pretty good. It's just that price point. You can't have both, really, without having a competitive team. Alexander Isaac with 19 goals from 34. So he's better than 50%. That's brilliant. 34 on target. Really good. Same with Chris Wood, 18 from 30. The issue with Chris Wood is obviously the injury. Now, Cole Palmer is usually a 50-50 goals on target. Shots on target, goals scored, but he's sliding out to 1 and 3 now. So that really might be a confidence thing, or it was an injury. They said he was sick. They said he was injured. I do understand it, but it's okay to say people are a bit out of form. They shouldn't put pressure on them. There's enough support there. Having to say that they're injured or got dysentery or whatever the excuses are these days. Seems a bit strange to me, but maybe I'm just old. But that being said, give him some time off. He is playing Tottenham this week. He won't get the game off. I think he will play. Wissa, 13 goals, 31, doing relatively well. I feel like Wissa scored more than 13 goals this season. Maybe each one of his goals has been a game turner in terms of FPL rank. Maybe that's why. Watkins only 13 goals. You need more output from him. If you bring in a 9 million or 8.5 million forward, you need more than 13 goals. If you had Isaac instead, that's almost another 50% on top. So you need more there. Cunha, 13, and Mateta is 12 as well. So realistically, if you've got Salah, Isaac, Wood, Palmer, you're probably doing pretty good this season. These players will stay at the top for shots. I don't see anyone getting more shots and more goals. In terms of top goals and Wissa to Mateta, there's a whole bunch of people underneath there, including Kluivert, who I expect to increase his goal output very shortly. Here's the form over the last 6 game weeks. Bruno's right up there as well. Beto, interesting that Beto's done so good. Those who jumped on him, you must be very proud of yourself. I would be, and I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. I'm not even going to mention Salah. He's almost having too good a season. I know we should be looking at this season as something we'll never see again, but each one of these statistical anomalies that he's the top of, we could just be talking about him and literally forgetting everyone else in the league. So at the moment, I think Elanga gets White and Wood. That shows how well Forest is starting to play again. Cucurella, or however you say it, he scored 2 goals. That's why. Bellegarde scored a goal. That's why he's there. Mamouche has obviously scored a goal, but he is playing a lot better. So this is heavily weighted on goal and assist output. But Fernandes did very well. However, let's not forget that Manchester United's fixtures turn. Some people don't care about that. He's quite highly owned this week, and a lot of people have brought him in. But I would say that if you needed some cash or if you're on a wild card, and you're not a Manchester United supporter, a lot of people probably wouldn't have him in there. The XGI over the last 6, we'll run through these quickly because they're a bit the same as they were last time. So the top 8 or 10 is pretty much the same as the shots on target. You got Salah, Haaland, Palmer, Isaac, Brian Mbeumo, who's a really good scorer. I don't know why Brian Mbeumo wasn't there. He's like 15 goals. He should have been on the shots on target sheet. I don't think he's had that many shots. That's why a fair few penalties. Watkins, Wissa, Fernandes, Mateta, and Kluivert. So the usual suspects. The expected assists there for Palmer as well, high, 7.6. It's good when Jackson's there. When Jackson's not there, they get nothing. It's unfortunate for Chelsea, as we've seen from their supporters speaking on social media, etc. They spend all this money on a side with so many great players, but they can't seem to put it together consistently. I wouldn't have thought at the start of the season if Jackson wasn't there, the attacking prowess for the team would change, but apparently it does. And Nkunku and Palmer clearly aren't on the same level. I've got them both in my team currently. I got lucky with Nkunku goal a couple of weeks ago, but I don't really see that continuing. I'm probably going to get rid of him soon, or might just bench him. Benching a $6 million midfielder seems risky. It is what it is. Those who've been watching my videos for a while know that I've got a dilemma coming up in terms of goalkeepers. I've got 2 goalkeepers that need to get rid of before I can play my bench boost. So I'll be trying some interesting goalkeeper changes coming up soon. I think the one I'll go with is probably Sales, to be honest. Best defense, realistically, especially towards the end of the season. They need to cement in their top 4 place. And also, I think that if I went like a Liverpool, they don't really need it. Manchester City's got 2 doubles coming up, but Edison assists goals, but he also scores own goals, and sometimes Ortega plays. So for me, it might be him, but more about that a little bit later. The expected points this game week, for the next 2 game weeks, I should say, Erling Haaland's back on top. Salah, Palmer, Isaac, Kluivert. Mamouche is there as well, which is interesting. They got Leicester at home this week. Those who have Gabriel who have to be playing him. Fulham looked a little bit impotent in front of goal last week. In the Cup 2 days ago. Semenyo, Munoz, and Mbeumo. And that Semenyo could be Evan Nielsen. It could be Dango Atara. Could be Ryan Christie. Semenyo at the start of the season was touted by a few to be the next breakout star in FPL. And for a period of time, it looked like he was. But Justin Kluivert's been in such great form that he's kind of overtaken him. Evan Nielsen now, they've brought in a guy from Porto who's used to leading the line in the Champions League, and it took him a while, but he's looking really good on goal. So Semenyo is being more of a provider, and then it's because he's not getting the opportunities given to him by others. As soon as he gets a shot close to the box, he just tries to bang it as hard as possible, and unfortunately, it's not going in. But that being said, if you had him, you'd still expect some returns. I mean, they've got Ipswich at home this week. It could fall Semenyo's way. You just don't know. Speaking of the transfers coming in, the most wanted for Game Week 30 is none other than Bruno Fernandes. 385k have brought him in already, and that'll probably ramp up right before deadline, as it usually does. They've got Forest this week, which is concerning considering Forest's defense is so much better than other teams I've been playing recently. This is purely backed by the fan base, and that's nothing against the fan base. I love the passion, but I don't think it's the smartest FPL decision. He is in great form, however, so that could be another reason why. Marmoush, he's in goal-scoring form. 325,000 people have brought him in. He's got great fixtures, potentially 2 doubles coming up for Manchester City. They won their cup game on the weekend, and he has at least 7 million cheaper than Erling Haaland. And if he gets those chances, as Haaland does, and he's playing up top, if he gets the minutes, that's the big issue. If he gets those minutes, then he will definitely return well for those players. He's a little bit like, who's the Argentinian guy they had last year? Julian Alvarez was to Haaland last year. A good alternative, but different type of player. But I think, to me, and don't quote me if I'm wrong, but to me, Marmoush seems a little bit more explosive. So at least that's how he's been looking over the last few game weeks as well. So if you've brought him in, hopefully he has some big attacking returns for you. I can see him finishing the season quite strong. Alexander Isaac's got 2 doubles. He's a talisman. He's got 19 goals already. 300k have brought him in. He's not essential, but he is pretty much the essential forward over the last 10 game weeks, I would say. If he couldn't get to Wood, you've probably definitely got Isaac. Not many people would have Wood without Isaac. I've had both, and then I've had my third rotating between Mateta, Evan Nelson, and who else. But Alexander Isaac, he's destined for bigger things than Newcastle. So if they get in the Champions League, or if they get into another bigger league, then he'll probably stay. But I expect him. Arsenal's swarming. I don't think Arsenal will be a good fit for him. I just don't like the way Arsenal plays football in terms of, for a big forward like him, it just won't work. They've got a whole bunch of wingers who are generally selfish and love to shoot. Some of them like to, without Saka, they just look bad, to be honest. I think they've almost got too many players that do similar things. Isaac would be good, but I think he'd be better in a pairing, to be honest. But it is what it is. That's not football these days. That's football in the 90s. They don't do upfront pairings. But I think maybe Pep will change the game again and bring in Haaland and Marmoush to do those upfront pairings. And speaking of Pep and Erling Haaland, captaincy choices for this week, it's a no-brainer between the top 2. And the third one, it can be a little bit of a discrepancy, but if you need to chase points like a certain someone does, then maybe we'll go with Justin Kluivert. But Erling Haaland is at home to Leicester. The Beast is back in form. Manchester City are back in form-ish. They're still not playing amazingly, but they're playing good enough. So I believe Haaland, if you've got him, you probably end up captaining him. It's a derby game for Salah at home to Everton. Would you bet against him ever? I mean, he's perma-cap for the majority of people who are trying to protect their rank at this stage. Justin Kluivert at home to Ipswich. He is a goal scorer. He's had 2 hat-tricks so far this season. I've never said this about anyone before, but he's due for another one. So home to Ipswich. Do Ipswich travel well? Not at all. They could frustrate, though. They're not entirely useless like Leicester's defenses, but they could frustrate. But I expect Kluivert to be play very well this week. So I expect him to get some returns. A brave person if you're going over Salah if you own him, and if you got Haaland, it's a 50-50 between Haaland and Salah. Looking at the goals scored, Liverpool are way out in front. Look at that, 14 goals higher than Manchester City and Tottenham, and it's pretty condensed behind that. Nottingham Forest, surprisingly, top 7. Wouldn't have expected that at the start of the season. It just shows how much of a great season they're actually having. I expected Brighton to be higher, but apart from that, pretty stock standard. That's the top few teams there. Notice the lack of Manchester United and also the lack of Evan Nielsen. I've got Evan Nielsen there instead of Clivert in the picture. Apologies for that. So also the lack of the cherries. Sorry, I had a mind blank there. I thought they were doing really well. I guess at the start of the season they didn't score that many goals, but they've got some really good goal scorers in their team. Looking at that, you'd dead against going anyone from Liverpool, but like I said, there's other factors there. Liverpool, if they wrap it up with 5-6 games to go, then what's the motivation realistically? Differentials for this week. Evan Nielsen is at home to Ipswich. He's getting a lot of chances. I think he scored on the weekend in terms of the cup game. He might take chances away definitely from Danga and Semenyo, but he also might take them away from Clivert. So keep that in the back of your mind. Mateta, he's wearing a face mask. He's away to Southampton. He was the informed striker in the Premier League before he got kicked in the face. But Ismail Yassar and Ebericha Eze are playing really well as well. Eze's a little bit disappointing this season. He's very inconsistent, but when he's on, boy, he plays well. He'd almost be better coming off as an impact player, which I can see happening if he goes to I don't know, probably City will pack him up. If they get rid of Grealish, then he's probably a good idea. Speaking of City, Savinho, home to Leicester. Ruud van Nistelrooy cannot coach defense. Even if he gets help, their defense is just disgusting. Southampton's is worse, as you can see from the goals conceded. They got 70, Leicester's 65, Ipswich 62, then Wolves, West Ham, Villa, Brentford, Spurs. Sorry tale for the majority of highly backed teams there, but I think Savinho, if he gets the minutes, could do some magic this weekend or this midweek against Leicester. So those are the I'll go back there. Those are the three differentials: Evan Nielsen, Mateta, and Savinho. We'll see how they go next week. All right, the Crusaders crosshairs for this week. Let's start off with the goalkeepers. So the Crusaders crosshairs are essentially my list of players I think will play well over the next few weeks. And I'm really looking towards the end of the season now. We're ramping up towards the end of this Premier League season. It's been a pretty eventful one, but we need to understand if we need to bring the right players in, I should say. So let's look at goalkeepers. We've got Pope, Verbruggen, Henderson, Edison, and Sales. Let's have a look at Pope first. He's got a double in 32 with Manchester United and Crystal Palace, both at home. Let's just remember that they're both at home. Let's think about Newcastle's form at home and Newcastle's form away. Away, it's not as bad as the likes of, shall we say, Villa, but it's still not great. They're home to Brentford this week. Then they travel to Leicester. If you're going to have an away game, you want it to be in Leicester. Then they've got Manchester United and Crystal Palace at home. Aston Villa on 33. They're playing 34, which is interesting. And they got Ipswich at home. They got Brentford 36. They got a half tough one at Chelsea, but that's at home. Then they travel to Arsenal on 37. That's not great. And then they're at home to Everton for the final day of the game week. So a final game week of the year. So the reason why Pope's here is because A, the double, B, he's all but clinched the number one spot, and C, most importantly, with Hall out for the season, he's been the number one Newcastle defender to go for. I think Pope could be a very good replacement if you're looking for someone in the Newcastle defense. They've got a bunch of green fixtures there, and the ones that aren't green, you could arguably say aren't too bad as well. Mr. Old Bart Verbruggen, Brighton, they don't have any doubles, but he plays in 34, and Brighton are playing relatively well. Their defense isn't flash, but it's not horrible. They've got Aston Villa at home this week. Villa don't travel well. They've got Leicester in 32, West Ham in 34, Newcastle in 35, all at home, and they travel to Wolves in 36. So it's not that bad. Maybe it's just an easy set and forget. They've got no bad fixtures until the last two. Crystal Palace, they got Southampton and Brighton in the next two. They've got a double in 32, which is Manchester United and Newcastle, but they're both away. Crystal Palace's away form has been phenomenal. They're keeping clean sheets more than anyone else. Then they've got another double in 33, which is Bournemouth and Arsenal. They blank in 34. They've got Forest, Tottenham, Wolves, and Liverpool to clear out the year. So after this week, then they don't have too many great fixtures, but they do have doubles. If you just want someone to set and forget, might be Henderson. He'll pick up 2, 3, 4 points every week, but with those doubles, that could be, in the long run, more than the other players on this list. Edison for City. Is he the number one? We're pretty sure he is. They've also got 2 doubles. They've got Leicester this week. Then they've got the Manchester derby. Crystal Palace at home. We know how well Crystal Palace travel. Everton and Aston Villa. They blank in 34. Then they've got Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, a blank in 37 potentially, and then Fulham on the last day. I expect City to finish very strong this season. One thing Pep will want from his team is to have a strong finish to the season and expect them to explode out the blocks for 25-26 as well. So maybe just do a punt. If you've got Vardiol like I have, do you double up on the City defense? If you don't have Vardiol and you've got Gabriel or whoever, then potentially you can just go with him. Sal's the number 1 goalkeeper in the league at the moment in terms of FPL points. Manchester United at home, Villa, Everton, Tottenham, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Leicester, West Ham, and Chelsea. They don't have a double, but they play every week. They've got the best defense. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 home games out of the next 9. Their away games are West Ham, which is in that flash, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, who aren't that flash, and Villa. Villa's probably the hardest one, which is in 31, but the rest of them look pretty good. I would probably go, don't even know who I'm going to go yet, because I've pretty much got a defender from each one of those, apart from Nick Pope. But then the likes of City and Palace have 2 doubles, and I'm going to use my free hit in 34, so it doesn't matter if they blank in 34. Food for thought. Crusaders cross here's defenders Gabriel, Vardiol, Tino Livramento, Daniel Munoz, and Milinkovic. I know there's only one Arsenal defender, but that's fine. So Arsenal, speaking of, they don't have a double, but they've got favourable fixtures. They've got Fulham, Everton, Brentford, Ipswich. Oh, they do have a double on Crystal Palace on 33. They've got Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Southampton. So you could probably add Raya to that as well, or you can go Gabriel and, if you want to go Gabriel and Saliba on a wild card, you can't really argue at it. Apart from 36 onwards, it's looking a bit, not looking that flash. Crystal Palace, Daniel Munoz, I own him. Hope you do too. Southampton, Brighton. Then I said they got the 2 doubles, and then they got relatively tough fixtures apart from 37 with Wolves. What are Wolves playing for on 37? I don't think it'll be a relegation battle. It'll be 17th, 16th, 15th they're probably playing with. Manchester City, as I said earlier, 2 doubles. Vardiol should do well against Leicester. He likes to play in the Manchester derby. He'll do well in the doubles. They're blank in 37. Something to think about. He might just be a set and forget. Tino Livramento, he's far less attacking than Hall, but he's a good entry into the Newcastle defense. They've got a really good fixture on. Look at that, 6 greens and 9. You can't go wrong with that. And Milinkovic, he scored last time out. Best defense. He's got a big fat head. He's going to put on a lot of the crosses from Morgan Gibbs-White, etc. So I think he could be a good player for the run into the end of the season. Midfielders. Now we've gone a bit I wouldn't say rogue, but I put Saka in here. So we got Salah, Palmer, Saka, Kluivert, and Gordon. Brian Mbeumo is not here. That's fine. His fixtures are disgusting. So let's have a look at Salah. What more do we need to say? Is this going to be the record-breaking season? Will he get over? I think he needs to get to 35 goals, 36, which means he's got 8 or 9 to go in 8 games. I reckon he can do it. So Liverpool have Everton, Fulham, West Ham, Leicester, Tottenham. The last 5 are actually pretty tough. If they've got it wrapped up by Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, and Crystal Palace, if they've got it wrapped up by then if they lose, it doesn't really matter. You probably back the team playing them, but it's Salah. He probably wants the record, so who knows? Palmer's had almost 2 or 3 weeks to rest. Tottenham, Brentford, Ipswich, Fulham, Everton. Then they've got 4 really tough fixtures towards the end. Liverpool, Newcastle, United, and Forest. Everyone seems to have tough fixtures in the last 4. All the good teams are playing each other. I can imagine a few punts on assistant manager chip going for not Southampton. Don't do that to yourself, but a Leicester manager, Van Nistelrooy or whoever it is, someone far down the leg. Arsenal, yeah, they're looking good. I think if Saka comes back for the Everton game, then you can probably hold him the whole way through. Depends on his match fitness. Kluivert, his team's not actually there. Crystal Palace was there. I was tossing up between Kluivert, Sarr, and Rodgers, to be honest, but Kluivert doesn't really matter what his fixtures are. He will score goals over the next 8 game weeks. You probably expect about 4 or 5 goals, maybe 6 returns. Gordon for Newcastle. Look, if you've got Alexander Isak and you want to double up, that's probably good up until 32. After 34, you can probably get rid of him and bring someone else in. That might be a good time to bring in a Villa player, but that's just up to you. So those are the midfielders. And in forwards, we've got Haaland, Mamouche, Jackson, Watkins, and Isaac. So I've got 2 from City, so we'll start there. Brentford, Leicester, Manchester United, Crystal Palace in 32. Villa, a reminder again, they've got Ipswich at home in 34. Will Haaland have to play that? We don't know. 35 is Brighton. 36 is Chelsea. 37 is Arsenal. 38 is Everton. Sorry, I was reading Newcastle then. Forgive me. That was Isaac. So Isaac's got a good run. Let's have a look at City. So Leicester, Manchester Derby, Crystal Palace, Everton, Villa. They're not playing 34. They've got Wolves in 35, Southampton and Bournemouth in 36. And then at 37, you flick them off because there's no point just keeping them for 1 game week. If Chelsea bring back Jackson in there, or this week, then I'd expect him to play for the rest of the season. He seems to be the key to unlocking Palmer, which is the strangest thing you hear all week. But even the fans and also the managers think that without Jackson, Palmer, I guess there's too much pressure on him. Everyone else just kind of waits for him. Doesn't look like they are, but maybe that's just in his head. They've got a pretty good fixture run up until 35, and then you need to get rid of them, I think. But from now until 34, I think Chelsea's a goer. Aston Villa, as I said, it could be Watkins or it could be the likes of Asensio, Rashford, Rodgers. They've got Brighton, Forest, Southampton. They've got a double in 33 with City and Newcastle, which is a tough double, to be honest. Then they've got another one in 36 with Bournemouth and Spurs, which is tough for Bournemouth and maybe not for Spurs. We'll see how that goes. I probably can't afford to get to Watkins, so I won't go there, but that's just me. If you do go there, let me know how it goes because I'll be watching with jealous eyes on that one. I've taken all this into account, and this is what my Game Week 30 wildcard would look like if I was on wildcard. Let's not forget, I've already used mine. I used mine in Game Week 21 because my team was pants. But if I had a wildcard now, this is what I'd use it for. And I've left 1.2 in the bank purely because I wanted to. Just in case you need to move within the next 8 game weeks. One of the major things you'll see here is I don't have Cole Palmer, and a lot of people have already gotten rid of him. I've got 3 Palace, 2 Newcastle, and 3 Bournemouth as well. So if you're doing Game Week 30, this is probably what you go, close to what you go. If you're doing Game Week 31, you'd probably get rid of Evan Nielsen and bring someone else in. But we'll just talk about how this team looks now. I've got Saka in the team. I've got Salah as the captain, obviously. So it's Sales and goal, and it's a good rotation with Henderson as well. I'll probably start Henderson this week, but you could play either. It doesn't really matter. Got Munoz, Vardiel, and Gabriel. So they're probably the 3 essential forwards essential defenders moving forward. They're also supported on the bench by Milinkovic and Tino Livramento. So a balanced squad there. You can have benching dilemmas each week, but you'd rather have benching dilemmas than not enough players. We've got Ismaila Sarr and Patrick Kluivert in the middle. Got Mo Salah. Sorry, not Patrick. Justin Kluivert. We've got Mo Salah and Bukayo Saka there as well. And waiting on Saka's comeback. If he plays this week, I'd play him. Evan Nielsen, Mamouche, and Isaac up front. We've got Rodgers on the bench and Henderson, as I said. So I think it's a pretty balanced and strong team. This team should get a decent amount of points moving forward. We've got a lot of penalty takers. We've got a lot of free kick takers here. We've also got players who will play 90 minutes each week. If Saka's not there, that's easily Palmer. That's where the 1.2 will come into effect. That's fine. Or you can spend it elsewhere if you wanted to go up to a Watkins or whatever it is. So that's just what I would do for my Game Week 30 wildcard. If you're not on wildcard, that's fine. Maybe some of these transfers will work. If you are doing wildcard, let me know. Send me a picture of your wildcard. I really want to see what people are doing this week. That'll be very interesting. The FPL challenge this week is just a 7-a-side fortified front, it's called. So you can go 3-4 or 4-3. I think you can only go 4-3, to be honest. So I've got 2 cherries. I've got Bowen, Sarr, and Salah. I've got Isaac, and I've got Haaland captain. So the team is Salah, Kluivert, Bowen, Sarr, which is pretty close to what the Game Week 30 wildcard was. And then I've got Haaland, Isaac, and Evan Nielsen. So Haaland instead of Mamouche, and then Bowen, I guess, instead of instead of an Arsenal. So if you're playing challenge, that's fine. A lot of people saying it's not worth it. It's just something different. You can spend like 5 seconds doing it. It's not something that needs like a lot of information or a lot of extra thought process, considering it's still relatively the same scoring as FPL. There's only different things each week that says like double points for defenders or double points for, one of them was players who played their team for more than 5 years, and that's a very small handful, so it didn't really make sense. But it's a little bit different doing something every week. It's also a precursor to what they'll probably try and do in future seasons with Fantasy Premier League. Here's how my team stacks up this week. You can see I had a massive red arrow, 338k down to 1.7 million. Like I've dropped. I was inside a million, and I've dropped down to 1.7 million over the last 2 game weeks. So I just had 2 really bad game weeks. It's shocking. Anyway, I've gotten rid of Chris Wood, and I brought in Omar Mamouche. That could be Mateta. It could have been Wissa even. But I'm just going to Mamouche now because he's in a bit of form. I looked at Mateta playing Fulham the other day, and whilst he played okay, I don't think he was playing as well as he was previously. Is Palmer injured or is he playing? So he's yellow flagged there. I've got Murillo on the bench for Forest because all my bench players, all my defenders are playing promoted teams. He's got Manchester United at home, so he's my first drop. So if Palmer doesn't play, he comes in, and I expect them to relatively retain Manchester United, so I should get a clean sheet there. I've got double City and Vardio. I bought him in last week, so I spent my last 2 transfers on Manchester City. The captain this week is a bit rogue. I've gone keep calling him Patrick Kluivert. I've gone Justin Kluivert. I've got 3 cherries now: Huijsen, Kluivert, and Evan Nelson. So the team lines up as Pickford. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I was probably going to get rid of Pickford this week because his run-in is horrible, and I want someone with doubles. I couldn't quite figure out who exactly I wanted. It could have been Henderson with his doubles. I essentially want to keep it with doubles, right? Who doesn't? Essentially wanted to keep it with doubles in a particular game week so I could play my bench boost, because I need to get rid of Fabianski as well, or I need to make sure that he's actually playing, and I'm not entirely sure that he is. So I've got Pickford there. I've given him the derby essentially just to see what he can do, because we know he can pull out random points here, there, and everywhere. Munoz, Vardio, and Huijsen. Munoz is away to Southampton. Vardio is at home to Leicester. Huijsen is home to Ipswich. Vice captain is Salah at home to Everton in the derby. I got Mbuemo as well. So Mbuemo is someone that could move. We've got 1.2 in the bank. I think I can almost get to Salah. Salah's 10. I think Mbuemo is 8.9. Oof, close. And then Palmer, Kluivert, the captain. So Palmer's at home to Tottenham. We expect him to play. Kluivert's at home to Ipswich, as is Evan Nielsen. Mamouche at home to Leicester, and Isaac at home to Brentford. My bench is Fabianski. Flappy isn't playing, so that's a concern, as I said earlier. Murillo's at home to Manchester United, and Nkunku's at home to Tottenham. He's the one that needs to go soon. And Mazraoui away to Forest. So my thought process for the next few game weeks would be Nkunku, Mbuemo, and obviously Pickford out. And I'll probably bring in, let's for instance say I go, I don't know, Henderson, or we'll just say Henderson for because they're similarly priced. Let's go Henderson. For Nkunku, I could potentially go Rodgers or Asensio. And then Mbuemo can go out to Saka if he hits the ground running, then I'll probably jump in straight away. That's my thought process. I would like to have a midfield 5 of Salah, Saka, Palmer, Kluivert, and Rodgers / Asensio if I can. If not, I could always go Sarr. But I think that with Mateta back and Sarr, and their fixtures aren't amazing towards the end, then I'm not entirely sure if that's the right way to go. So we'll keep him in Mbuemo for a couple of weeks just to see how he goes. But here's my team for this week. For Game Week 30, almost said 31. For Game Week 30, it's Kluivert captain, Salah vice captain. Expected points 58. I'm picking, or I really want to get at least 75. I need some help with my rank. So thank you all for tuning in. It's a bit longer this week, but there's a bit more to go through. So thank you again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you have a good game week. I hope all the arrows are greens and the differentials score hat tricks. Good luck this week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.